We're theme park families.
Theme park families.
We're theme park families.
Won't you join us now?
We're theme park families.
Thanks for joining us, we aim to please.
If roller coasters got you weak in the knees,
We're theme park families.
if you wanna find the best dessert or
Take a potty break with privacy,
find a coaster that is tame for little ones,
or one to make you scream.
we're theme park families.
Everybody's ready to get babies.
Rescuing you all from life's drudgeries.
We're theme park families.
We're theme park families.
Press the space bar to get it.
Yay! Hi all, welcome back. I'm Andrew.
And I'm Adam, and these past few weeks for the theme park world on Facebook has been a little sad, especially for those of us living up north. As we make a lot more friends in the community, Facebook lately has been filled with lots of posts about my park is closing for the year, and all kinds of sad emojis and pictures of sad faces.
For so many people, they're facing 6 months of no parks, which is pretty tough to take. But we're going to help you get through this. For some, they have holiday in the park season coming up. But of course, with limited rides open, weather permitting, but 2018 is looking to be a great season, so people have so much fun to look forward to.
It is. It's going to be a great year next year. So many brand new, exciting rides opening, and we can't wait for that. And here at Theme Park Families, hopefully we'll help you get through the cold and lonely off season a little bit.
Like our home park, Six Flags Great Adventure, is open for a holiday in the park, right?
Yeah, it's sort of transitioning over here in the next few weeks, where between Haunt and Holiday in the Park, they've been open a couple weekends. This Friday, we were thinking of going as we had the day off for pre-Veterans Day, but it turned out to be the coldest day so far of the winter, so we weren't able to go to the park that day, but we'll get there for Holiday in the Park at some point coming up.
Yep.
So looking forward to that. Before we head back to the summer to tell some of those tales about what we did, we're going to report on our recent trip to Virginia, where we got to see so many of our good friends at the Coasterradio meetup at Busch Gardens Williamsburg, which was our first time there on spooky Friday the 13th. On the Saturday, we had a crazy time at King's Dominion for the busiest day we've ever seen at that park, right? Mm-hmm. And Sunday, we were able to go to Six Flags America on our way back up north for a spooky visit, but in this case, for a much different reason. Think apocalypse, but not the ride, but the actual event. So we'll talk about that more later.
We start things out with a report from a dad and daughter from the coaster capital of the South, Carolines.
Hi, Adam and Andrew. Michael Dutter here. I'm here with my 9-year-old daughter, Ellie.
Hi!
We just wanted to call tonight and let you know that we absolutely love the podcast. We listen every 2 weeks when it comes out. We really enjoy it. It's the one podcast we can listen to together. We really like it.
Yeah, this is the first podcast I actually want to listen to.
So, great job there, guys. Finally get my daughter to listen to Coaster Podcast. Good job. But we really wanted to call tonight to let you guys know something super special happened at Carowinds tonight. Ellie, you want to tell them what happened?
Well, I finally hit 54 inches and I rode Fury.
So we've been trying to get there for a while now, and we went and got measured this afternoon, and she made it, and we rode Fury. What did you think, Ellie?
Fury was amazing.
Amazing. How does it compare to other coasters you've ridden?
Well, I really like Fury a lot, but I hope I enjoy other 54 coasters as well.
Okay, well, we also rode Afterburn. What did you think of Afterburn?
I wish there was a little less headbanging, but I really liked it. I enjoyed it.
Okay, do you have any other thoughts on Fury or being 54 inches?
Well, there's so many more rides I can ride now that I'm 54, and it is just amazing, and I love Fury, and I hope I enjoy other 54 coasters as well.
Awesome. Well, Adam and Andrew, thank you guys again. We can't wait to see you guys at a park sometime soon. Take care.
Bye!
Thank you so much to Michael and Ellie. What a very cool call. I loved the enthusiasm in her voice.
Yeah, I would sound like that if I hit 54 inches. You keep hyping me up for Fury, and I just can't wait until I hit 54. But yeah, she sounded really excited that she got to 54, and yeah, I like that call. So.
Yeah, it's great to hear. And I agree with you, Ellie, so much about Afterburn. A lot of great parts to it, but that corkscrew right after you go past the station, that bangs my head a little bit too. So I wish that was a little smoother there. But glad you got to do it, and hopefully in the future we'll hear what you felt about Vortex and Intimidator and a couple of the other 54-inch rides there. We met the Dutter family at the Carowinds Coasterradio meetup where they dominated the Plants vs. Zombies competition, and it was great to meet the whole family there. And who knows, once you're able to do the 54-inch coasters, Rue, next spring, maybe the Dutter family will meet us there, as well as the notorious Wilson brothers from Coasterradio. It would be very cool if we could have a lot of them there for your first 54-inch ride. If you keep growing the way you are, Carowinds opens in March.
And if we're lucky, maybe Randy Ray Rayford will come.
Oh, I don't know. He's kind of put the Yankee boys from up north down a few times. I don't know if you want him to be there. He might make fun of you.
Maybe.
Could you handle it?
I could talk some smack back.
Yeah, I like it. Maybe some smack talk about the southern people in some ways. Okay, I like it. Thanks again for all the kind words. We're glad to have you listening. And those are the kind of calls we love, to hear about experiences in the park that you guys are having. So very cool. Great to hear. Well, how about some news?
If not running coasters will give you the blues, it's Andrew's news. Big news coming out of a park that has made giant strides in the last few years to become a real player in the amusement park industry. Coasterradio listeners were the first to hear about Central Park Funland's gigantic new announcement that they are getting 2 new attractions. Clip and Climb, featuring 7 elements and 9 different climbing areas, and Twist and Shout, a figure-8 free spinning coaster. Clint Novak, general manager at Central Park Funland, gave us the announcement in Grogan's Pub during the live recording of the Coasterradio meetup episode.
Wow, so huge news coming out of Central Park Funland. And the way they are expanding and adding so many things, they really could become a pretty big player in that mid-Atlantic area with the amusement park industry.
Yeah, we were there once, and it definitely looks like a good park that could have a good chance at becoming like a miniature theme park. And I think if they add like a few more coasters, and that could really get that could help them a lot.
And who knows, the way they're expanding, that isn't that far out of the possibility. They're adding that spinning coaster that'll be indoors, and you never know what they'll be able to do with some of that outdoor space eventually. They have the 2 different go-kart tracks, which are terrific. Arcade area is just really well done. They've got bowling. That laser tag area is so much fun as well. We had a great time the one day we were able to visit. That was about a year and a half ago now, the summer before last. A really cool place, and coaster enthusiasts have an opportunity to get a new credit with a new ride. So very exciting whenever any kind of new coaster is announced.
Dollywood has reported that a new entertainment venue is going to be built where the former River Battle stood, focusing over $1 million in entertainment investments for 2018.
Not a surprise here that Dollywood has always voted for the Golden Ticket Awards as the best shows, so not a surprise that this year they decide to put a lot of money into shows. Now, we went 3 different times last year, once for the Coasterradio meetup, and the 3 different times we went, how many shows did we wind up seeing indoors in the theaters?
0, but we saw like a little bit of 2 shows.
Yeah, some of the outdoor singing shows, which seemed very good if you're into that kind of music. And we've heard great things about the shows, but we just like to spend most of our time doing rides. Plus, we weren't really there ever when it was super hot. That's one of the things as well. We went once in March, once in August when it wasn't really that hot. That was a cool snap that they had. And then once again in Thanksgiving. Some people are disappointed that a ride's not going into that area, but Drew from In the Loop stated that a lot of land has been cleared in the back there, so maybe hopes for a large new ride coming to the back of the park sometime in the next few years. One of the things that we do love about the shows is they take a lot of people out of the rides lines and put them into the show lines, and that's kind of a big help for us.
Goliath from Ride This One and Dwayne from Coaster Addict were there a few weeks ago.
And they did a Facebook post where Tennessee Tornado's queue was completely filled inside. And I think the longest we've ever saw was about a 12-minute wait in that building. So kind of wild to see, but good for them that they're doing well. Number 3.
Nothing has been confirmed yet, but rumors are swirling around the internet that Curse of DarKastle might not reopen due to decreased ridership and high maintenance costs.
Yeah, so pretty disappointing. And this has been mentioned in a few different places online. And that's a bit of a concern, as we've never gotten to do it. Now, we did see Frostbite, so we got a little bit of the feel for it. But from what we heard, the ride is completely different. So the fact that SeaWorld has been having some troubles, cost to maintain it is a bit of an issue. That a lot of effects, I guess, haven't been working over the last few years.
Well, I hope it doesn't go away because I like dark rides, but I mean, yeah. Is there any animatronics in there?
I'm not sure. I intentionally have never watched the POV for it since I wanted to be able to experience it without it, but it's possible since, again, they said some effects weren't working. But a lot of people online have been saying, oh, it's one of my favorite dark rides. It rivals Universal's in some way, and in that way, it'll be a huge disappointment if it does close. So we'll find out, hopefully in the near future, that they will save it, as a lot of people love that ride.
From our neck of the woods, Darien Lake, after many years, seems ready to add a new coaster, which will be a Gerstlauer Eurofighter at 100 feet tall.
Gerstlauer's really on a roll lately. They've had a lot of new coasters opening up, including Hydrus in New Jersey, which you did this past year. And it's a good sign for that park. You think that's a good choice for them?
Yeah, when we were talking, we were like, this park's okay. But yeah, I think this could really help out this park. And Gerstlauer, this sounds pretty good for 100 feet tall, and where is this gonna go?
That's the question, yeah. On the map, I haven't seen anything mentioned yet. They have enough land to put it in a few different places. What I did hear is that their log flume is going away, so it might go in that spot.
Is it the one that's kind of in the front near Mind Race?
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of been a rash of different log flumes closing lately.
Yeah, because last year when we were walking near that, I saw maintenance people walking up the lift hill.
Yeah, that's right. When we were leaving, I remember that. That's a park we'll be talking about in the future. But that's good for them. It's been a long time since they've had a new coaster, and we hope that they'll have more than one train on that ride. A Eurofighter with one train could take a while, but
especially since their cars aren't that big. It's like an 8-seat.
Exactly. Usually it's pretty small seating. But yeah, certainly as a new ride, they'll have more than one train on the track, and it's not the kind of thing that is going to bring in people from all over the country, but it will ensure that their numbers go up a little bit, which that park really needs. Number 5.
More Northeast news as the American Dreams theme park, which has been in the development phase for years, will be adding 2 coasters from, you guessed it, Gerstlauer with a Eurofighter model and a spinning coaster, which will be the tallest and longest in the world.
Okay, so exciting news. And in terms of geography, my concerns are this. This is in the Meadowlands Sports Complex just outside of New York City. From that spot, you can see the whole skyline pretty well. So incredibly heavily populated area. You'll wonder what kind of lines this park will have, what the price point will be, because in theory, lines for this could be 3-4 hours long. Hard to imagine how busy this park could possibly get. But a couple of potential record breakers. They're supposed to interact with each other. Great news for the Northeast, which is a heavily populated area and can always use some new coasters. They've also released a video of all the Pro Slide water park features they're going to have, all the different slides and rides that they'll have in there. So it looks like a pretty incredible place. I know it's been in the talks and they've been working on this for many, many years. We might be getting closer to it actually being done. All right, so there's Andrew's news. So on to our Virginia trip, where we left on Friday the 12th after school ended and drove until about 11, where we decided we were going to get a hotel at that point. Using Hotels.com in the car, we decided that we were going to stay about an hour's away from Busch Gardens. Melissa typed it in, and as we got close to our hotel, Motel 6, we laughed as we saw we were going to be staying at the King's Dominion Motel. We groggily got the kids out of the car, and they were slowly waking up. They're like, oh, we're at King's Dominion, and we're like, oh, we'll be back here in a little over 24 hours from then on the Saturday. As we drove to Busch Gardens Williamsburg, as we got really close to the park, about that hour drive from there, you could just tell from the trees and landscaping as you got close that was a really nice area, and it really got us psyched to go there. We were able to park in the European parking lot for ERT, where we were able to hang out for a little bit and talk to our friends in the parking lot. Great to catch up with all of our buddies. And we entered through Ireland, and as we were walking through, it was kind of surreal. We were in the back of the line as we were taking a little bit longer to look at things like the wolf enclosure and what else back there? You remember what other animals there were?
There were bald eagles. There were like 2 stadiums for pet shenanigans.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I just thought that it was a very cool area, how it was very hilly. And you can tell that already this park is great, and that it's just a very pretty park.
Yeah, that walk through France just was a great precursor to the day, and it almost felt like we owned the park, walking by ourselves early in the morning. Kind of like that feeling. Do you remember where else we have that feeling of being the only ones in the park late at night?
Yes, at Cedar Point.
Yeah.
Hot night.
Quite often at Cedar Point, we're on one of the last trains for Millennium Force, and we park back in the water park, and we walk around past Maverick, and you never see another person. Kind of a cool atmosphere at night as we're walking back. The Whack-A-Mole tournament that Coasterradio had was a great opportunity for everyone to get to know each other and talk with old friends, meet with new people, which was really cool that we got to do that. And it was great that the supervisor there allowed everyone to just keep playing after the tournament was done. Like, what would you guess? How many games did you get in that day?
I don't know, like 33 games?
33, that's very specific. So you honed your whack-a-mole skills, and now you'll be prepared to win the next tournament, right?
Yep.
We headed afterwards to Invader, and that whole area looks really nice. Love that battering ram in the front, and it was great to get some ERT on that. And what would be your review of Invader?
It was okay for a small junior coaster. I would kind of like it if it had more trees around it. And it would be kind of cool if they had like theming, like if the Vikings are going to get you or the villagers are like shooting their arrows at you or something. But yeah, it was a very cute coaster. It had some pretty cool drops.
So what type of theme park patron would you say Invader is perfect for?
It's perfect for the people who are just about ready to do some of the bigger coasters.
So nice introductory coaster. Young kids, people who are scared of heights, nice, easy way to transition them in. Thought it was very smooth. My favorite part of it was that first drop with the beam that was kind of a head chopper. Thought that was kind of neat. And to me, it felt like sort of a Mystic Timbers light. It had some of the same elements, but much shorter, much more compact. And I agree with you. I was hoping there would be a lot more trees where you would dart in and out. Maybe some Vikings out there and animatronics, something like that to add to that theming. So I agree with you there. Well, after that, EB from Coasterradio and his family really wanted to see the More Pet Shenanigans show, which was not too far away, and it turned out to be ridiculously, shockingly adorable. And to you, who was the star of the show?
It was the mouse, or the rat.
The rat. What did the rat do? And I think it was right at the beginning of the show, right? Wasn't it?
Yeah, that was the first thing.
Yeah. What did the rat wind up doing?
He went down the line, the back of the stadium, to the front of the stage, and then the cat started chasing it, and I thought that was so funny.
It was very cute, and it probably had to walk a good 40 feet down that line, so it was amazing. The best part about it was they were all rescue animals, so it was all for a good cause, that all of these animals could be trained to do such wonderful things. Even some pigs there, dogs. And I think one of my favorite skits was with the dog who was on a fake leash and the woman who was reading the newspaper. Do you remember what the dog kept doing?
Yeah, he kept getting out of the leash and then like stealing the food.
And then
Getting back in and pretending nothing happened.
And she would look at the food and like, oh, it got smaller. And the dog's like, oh, I didn't do anything. Very cute. And we got to hang out afterwards. And some of the kids got to pet some of the animals. And a very, very cute show. Well, after that, it was time for lunch. And we went to the Trapper's Smokehouse in New France, where they had an excellent platter of all different kinds of smoked meats, like ribs. And that tasted really very good. But it took a long time to order with the phone and the meal plans that they had trouble scanning. It was kind of awkward how that worked, but still the food there was excellent and I would definitely recommend it. After that, it was time for the tour of Griffin, which was really interesting to see under the car and what everything looked like. And what really impressed you about that tour?
So the thing that I loved the most was the thing that's attached to, that all the wheels are attached to, that whole legs shakes back and forth. And I think that's really cool how they did that. I wonder how that could help when it's actually going.
Yeah, because when it's on a track, I'm sure it's a lot more rigid. But the fact that there was some play in that wheel assembly was actually pretty impressive. And they were fine with you moving it. And you could take some pictures with wheels. And a lot of interesting information about how long the wheels last, what different types of compounds there are.
Yeah, they said they went through 100 and something bolts in a week.
Yeah, that they're constantly replacing things. And I think that's one of the things I didn't realize is that every single night there's a crew that's on overnight for maintaining these trains every single night. I didn't realize they had that much attention to them. But I think it really shows there because all the coasters there were incredibly smooth. The only restriction they had was taking a picture of the blueprints from B&M, but you can understand why they wouldn't want us to film that. But our guide there, she was so incredibly knowledgeable and really answered a lot of questions for us. Well, then after that, we were able to be taken right up the steps, and we got 2 different rides on Griffin without getting off, which was great. First time I did it in the back row, second time I rode with Melissa in the front row. One of the things I loved about Griffin, which you'll experience next year hopefully, was the views. Once you get to the top of Lift Hill, you've got the beautiful views of the river, which is just stunning. Such a panoramic view of that entire river area. You come around the turn, and then you see the Busch beer plant there, which is a very different sight. And what a forceful drop. I've done Valraven before, and you've done Valraven before too. And somehow Griffin feels like a more forceful drop. Great ride, super smooth. Really like the water element there too. And a great ride, Griffin. Really enjoyed it. Next, we had to head off to the taping of the show in Grogan's Pub. What a cute little area. Definitely recommend it for anyone who's looking to get a little break during the day and have a drink. And we'll listen to the Coasterradio episode. And we'll listen to the taping of the show. I would definitely check out that Coasterradio episode. They had a lot of great skits, guest speakers, interviews, and a discussion of the new 300-foot attraction that'll be coming here in the next couple years. Do you remember what they said is coming?
It's a 300-foot flagpole.
That's going to be a huge flag, right? At 300 feet tall.
Yeah.
So that was the funny joke there. And we'll see what eventually does come. Nice to have our good friend Clint Novak come in and surprise the audience, since he and Mike go way back and they've been on each other's show before. So it was nice to see him for a little bit. After that, we did the long walk over to Italy to see that section for the first time and tackle Apollo's Chariot. And why was this an important ride for you?
Because it's my first hypercoaster.
Yes, your first B&M hypercoaster, exactly. Melissa went on first with our friends Brian and Tim Wilson from the Civil War podcast.
Ding!
And she got off and had a big smile. I think she did it in the back row, which Adam the Beard Man and Dan the T-shirt guy say is the best row for that ride. And she obviously loved it. Well, I was a bit skeptical. It's one of the earliest B&M hypers. Being that Nitro is my first, a lot of people compare them and it's a little competition. And even though I realize it's a lot more rattly than a lot of hypercoasters, I still want to defend its honor. After Melissa got off, we did a parent swap and Andrew and I got on the train. But unfortunately, we didn't get in the same row as there were no 2 seats that they were same, but we were okay with that. We were 1 row away from each other, so it wasn't that big of a deal. And all right, bud, so your review of your first B&M Hyper.
So this is in my top 5 list of coasters.
Wow,
So-
top 5 overall. Wow.
Yep.
Okay. What did you like about it?
I just liked how they had some parts, like variety a lot, where there were some nice smooth airtime hills, and then there were those really intense, fast, low parts to the ground, like the turnaround. It's just so intense near the water, and I just think that it's a great coaster.
Definitely my second favorite part of the ride, that turnaround by the river, because you're close to the ground and you get that great sense of speed. And for both of us, our favorite element on the ride was on the return trip when...
It's a little after the brake run where you go down and then you kind of do a quick transition turn to the right, and that just whips you a lot, and I think that's really fun element of the ride.
Beautiful as you go with that quick left and then quick right, and just the scenery, the river there, and then the gullies that you're going over. It's a great setting for that ride, and for us, I think we really like setting. Setting makes a difference, and absolutely one of the best B&M hypers, undoubtedly. I think I would agree it's my favorite I've done so far, and I think I've done most of them at this point. So what a great ride. A lot of things that we liked about it. As we got off the ride, we ran into Mike and Izzy from Coasterradio, and she was a bit nervous about doing it. She's on a famous episode from season 8, number 806, titled Mike Helps a Coasterphobic, where she talks about being nervous on certain rides and having a fear of things. And she was a little bit nervous. And Andrew talked to her and said, oh, it's not too bad. And even I'll go on with you. I'll sit next to you and help you out. And we were trying to calm her down a little bit. As we got onto the lift hill, we talked to her about what rides she's done so far. And do you remember what she said she had done already?
She'd already done Griffin, which was when they did the tour.
Yeah, Griffin is a much scarier drop than Apollo's Chariot is. So we said to her, oh gosh, if you've already done Griffin, like Andrew knows Valraven, then you could absolutely handle Apollo's Chariot. It's not that much taller, and the drop is nowhere near as steep. And that really relaxed on the lift hill. And as we were going down that first drop, she's like, oh, this isn't too bad. Kind of like what I remembered the first time you went on Millennium Force, which you were a tiny bit nervous, and that was a long time ago. And halfway down the drop, you're like, oh, no problem, this is fun.
I wasn't nervous.
No, you weren't? No? It doesn't sound familiar?
No.
Okay, and not nervous at all. Okay, gotcha. Even though I have the video on my phone about you.
You don't.
No, that doesn't exist?
No.
Oh, okay, that must have been someone else. As we were coming into the final brake run, Izzy was like, oh, that's so much fun, I loved it. And it was such a cool ride. And it'll be interesting to see in the future what rides that she'll get onto now. Is that going to lead to much bigger coasters in the future? So thanks, Mike and Izzy, for that. That was such a cool experience. After that, we had No Time for Tempesto, which was right next door, but it's a 54-inch coaster anyway, with shoulder restraints, compared to 52 inches for Phobia Fear at Lake Compounce, which has only a lap bar. This is one of the things that always confounds us about the theme park industry, how weird different parks' ride heights are. There's no rhyme or reason to it. Why Busch Gardens has the only 52-inch B&M Hyper, yet the same exact ride to Phobia Fear is 54 inches when Phobia Fear is 52. Shoulder restraint compared to lap bar. It's just odd. But we didn't have time anyway because we needed to head back to DarKastle for the Frostbite walkthrough tour, which we thought, and we were told throughout the day, it was just going to be a lights-on walkthrough tour, like a behind-the-scenes kind of thing. And was that the impression that you had too?
Yeah. First of all, I thought it was going to be just like you said, behind the scenes tour. And then I thought it would be like maybe where it was still a lights on tour, but the characters were still there, like giving you an idea where they would pop out and stuff.
Exactly, like, oh, this is a classic spot where someone's going to jump out or lift up this lever or something like that. But no, it was just that we got to the front of the line and were able to experience the haunt first before anyone else. Well, just to give you a little history about our haunt experience, it really isn't much. The first year we didn't do any haunt stuff because Andrew was pretty young. The second year last year, we went to a couple of spots, including we went to Dorney, and what did we do at Dorney?
So we did the Chamber of Horrors Wax Museum, and we did Blood on the Bayou.
Which was, I think, a pretty new house at that point.
Yeah.
And from what I remember, there weren't too many jump scares. It was mostly sets and all that. And so it wasn't that scary of a haunt. Neither was the Wax Museum
and then
either.
we did a Pirate Zone.
Yep, the Pirate Zone, which was
and then
small.
there was like a dragon and medieval times one.
Yeah, exactly, right by Thunderhawk. And then at Cedar Point, we had done a couple. We did the Blood on the Bayou, which is the walk through near Iron Dragon and Top Thrill Dragster. And that was a little scary, but nothing crazy.
No.
And then you did the one with your Uncle Michael and Alex, the Witches one by Gatekeeper, right?
Yep.
And what did you think of that one?
That one wasn't very good. It didn't have like any jump scare. There was one jump scare. The rooms were okay. There were weird, like, it wasn't strobe lights, but there were weird, like, lights throughout the maze.
Okay.
That were just, I don't know. It wasn't very good.
When we got to the Curse of DarKastle for Frostbite, it was very cool as we were able to talk of the Queen of the Castle, as she stayed in character the whole time. Her makeup looked great and very cool to talk to her a bit. And when we got into the house, that's when we realized, oh, this isn't just a walkthrough. This is going to be a real scare. And I think you'll remember a few more details than I did. Now, I was carrying Maddie, our 2-year-old, so my whole focus was to not traumatize her for the rest of the life and get the award for the worst father of the year. And so I was just trying to distract her the whole time. And it started in that first room, that holding room that you're in. And was it a coffin that banged?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that started it off with being scary right off the bat. Yeah. Now, in there, as the whole time I'm just trying to distract her and keep her looking at me and not anything else, I just remembered a couple of rooms. One that I certainly remembered was the Dragon Bones. Is that what that was? And I thought that was pretty cool, pretty well done.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, I was in the front of the group with Mark, holding my ears. I don't know why I did that, but
You thought something scary, loud noises were gonna pop out.
yeah, sometimes when there were sharp turns, we let some other people go in front of us.
Okay, very nice of you to let other people go through. I remember as well those strobe lights that were super bright.
That was my least favorite room.
Did you find it dizzying or?
I thought it was hard to walk, and I thought the room was moving.
Yeah, it's kind of hard. Like you're just trying to step and not trip over anything, worried about where you're actually going. So that was kind of a cool room. Then I remembered there was like a white room that had those kind of white creatures, snow creatures with the frilly stuff. And I thought that was kind of interesting as well.
Yeah, and there was one real person that popped out.
Yeah. And then, do you remember what the 3D show was on the one screen? Was it like a...
There was one that was just the main person. The main evil guy who ran the place.
Okay.
I remember there's that. But I don't remember too many others.
Yeah, at the end, you just kind of go through an exit door, and it was like, you weren't even sure if that was the end. There were two guys there. So overall, I thought it was interesting, different, but of course, we'd like to see Curse of DarKastle as well. After that, you guys headed over to that maze that was next to the Fest House?
Yeah, cornered.
Okay, and so you experienced that, but I was with Maddie, and we didn't go on it. So what was your review of Cornered?
I didn't think it was that good. I mean, I thought they could have had more set. Like, there was a couple where you just went through dead bodies hanging from the ceiling.
Okay.
But it was okay. There were, like, the people that were in camouflage blending into the corn that popped out. But, yeah, I didn't think it was as good.
Corn Stalkers you like better, you would say?
Yeah.
All right, so we'll talk about that later. That's what I figured. Well, that was our last haunt for the night because we still had a lot of coasters to do at that point, and it was just starting to get dark. So we had a lot more to do, and we just couldn't fit it all in. It's amazing when you were with a family and we had all of those Coasterradio things, you just sort of run out of time very easily. So at that point, as it's starting to get dark, the mist started to get a bit harder as darkness descended, creating this really eerie atmosphere. I loved it as you could see the mist in the light, and when you walk through a scare area, it just created a scary atmosphere as they almost didn't even need fog. It looked like a night in old London. It was a very cool effect. So we headed over to Verbolten next, and you went on first. We didn't go on Verbolten together. So, what did you think of Verbolten? You knew plenty about it. What did you think?
I loved it. The launches, they're so forceful. When you get into the show building, you're going so fast. And I just thought it was a great ride.
Were you surprised at how big that show building was?
Yeah. I thought there were like 2 buildings because one where you first got in there, and then there was like a brake run, and then you went back into them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it just looks like you're going to crash into track every single second. I knew the drop was coming.
Yeah, exactly. So how would you compare that drop to Wonder Mountain Guardians drop at Canada's Wonderland?
I don't think they were that different. I didn't feel that it was bigger at all.
It's weird. The distance might be similar, but I thought Wonder Mountain's Guardian was more forceful. When we went on it with Alex, I kind of warned him. I didn't want him to be scared this time, so I was like, okay, here it comes.
Something was kind of weird. The second time I went on, after the drop, we were stuck in that drop position for like 30 seconds.
Oh, wow.
Really weird.
Okay, like the other train had to clear before you guys could go or something like that.
I don't know.
Yeah. So that is kind of weird to be that long. For us, yeah, it was only a couple of seconds. The drop down to the river, the old Big Bad Wolf drop, that was a very cool end to the ride. So I loved it. I wish I was able to do it more than once, but a great ride. I thought that was really well done. Plus, I didn't see any of the Q theming with the whole guy and girl and all that, so I missed out on a bunch of it, but I still loved the ride. Well, next, Maddie, who's only 2, was on the junior bumper cars at Der Autobahn. Melissa had taken her over there, and you can imagine how well that would work with a 2-year-old. She was the only one on the ride, but steering a bumper car when you're 2 is a very confusing thing. So it comprised of her being stuck on the wall for about 45 seconds. But she was still smiling, just happy to be on a ride by herself. Then we headed over to Alpengeist as the rain started to pick up even more and impossible to see anything in the dark with the rain. And Melissa and I did that together. We sat about the next to last row. And I was so impressed with the speed of that ride. That first drop is amazing, and from there, the ride never slows up. The whole thing is just at a frantic pace, and I love rides that are like that. So, Rue, I can't wait next year when you're able to do Alpengeist. Really, really different inverted coaster with just the raw speed that it constantly has. After that, we were able to do Loch Ness. And what did you think?
Yeah, I thought it was great. It was actually super, super smooth for an older coaster.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the interlocking loops. If only they were matched up. Great time.
And how great was the cave?
Yeah, it was so long.
It felt like forever, exactly. Yeah. And you get off at the end of that ride and you say, gosh, if every Arrow coaster was like that, how much would you love that company?
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah. And just a great setting right there over the water. Everything about that ride was terrific. And at this point, all of the coasters have no lines at all, as you're able to just jump on very quickly. Well, we wish we had eaten at Marco Polo's Marketplace. It looked like a really good place to eat, so many great choices, but we ended up at the Fest House. And this is right at the end of the night at this point, and a comedy of errors. It's crazy at this point. Melissa is super tired. Her body's starting to hurt as we've done a lot of walking at that point, and we're all in line to eat, and the line is pretty long.
Yep. And then we were in the pizza line.
Mm-hmm.
And so then we knew that I have to get a kids meal.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I had to wait in a super long line that moved every 10 minutes.
Oh gosh, that line was forever in the back of Fest House. And it wasn't even that busy. It just took forever to go.
And then when I came up to you guys, there was Jell-O all over the floor. And then whipped cream on the pizza.
Alex had a little bit of an issue in line where the Jell-O defied gravity and jumped off of his tray. So here I am clearing off this Jell-O from the ground, throwing it into the garbage. It was just an absolute mess. So we had to get a new Jell-O. We set up Alex and Maddie at the tables. Then I'm trying to check myself out and help Andrew out. And then, what perfect timing at that moment, the show starts with the band and the singers, which was very well done, and they were very talented, but it freaked Maddie out. And what did Maddie do?
She flipped over the whipped cream onto the pizza.
Yeah, we had whipped cream on pizza. Her Jell-O fell onto the floor. Half of her dinner fell onto the floor, and so we're cleaning up stuff yet again. The Fest House employees are looking at us like we're maniacs at this point, and it was just an absolute mess. So at that point, we're kind of soaking wet. There's food all over the floor. It's so loud that Alex is a little bit nervous with loud noises, and It was just crazy at that point. And so I think at that point, everyone was ready to go. There was only about a half hour left, and that rain kept picking up more and more at that point. And so we had this one magical walk where you go down that walkway underneath Loch Ness, and then you have to climb up the steps. And even though I had to carry the stroller up those steps, that was just stunning. It's such a cool place to walk through with the trees and the river and the ride there. What a neat place to go. So we can't wait to go back. We missed the Sesame Street area completely. We never even saw it. We didn't see any of the Halloween shows. We missed the Land of Dragons as well. Of course, the water rides there were closed, like Pompeii was one that we definitely want to do in the future. So we missed all of those. And so it's definitely a park that we need to get to again. A great tip that one of the employees gave us: in the summer, midweek, especially if it's a really hot day, that's when to go. That the water park will be busy, and that they have days where if it's 95 around there, that you can get onto as many rides as you want. So I think we'll definitely be back again sometime in the future. It's a great park, and we can't wait to get there again. We stayed in a hotel about 10 minutes away. It was Travelodge Williamsburg Colonial area, and it was very clean, super affordable, and if we go back, that's definitely a place that I would like to stay at again. That next morning, we were in no great rush. It was a super long day, everyone was tired, and we were going to let everyone sleep in. I think we wound up getting up at 10 o'clock in the morning. Now, I've known Melissa for 20 years. That is the latest I've ever seen her sleep in my life. That's how long that day was the day before. And we were all a little shocked at that, but we got up and got to King's Dominion after that around 12 o'clock. And at that point, the lines weren't too long, and we immediately headed over to Volcano. That's the ride we always try to get out of the way first before lines get too crazy.
And so it wasn't open, so then we went to the Scrambler.
We jumped at the Scrambler as Volcano closed down, as it does all the time for those who know King's Dominion. And we were on lines for Scrambler, and Maddie's just about at the height where she can do 36-inch rides like the Scrambler, so we were excited to do that. And we were in line with Melissa's brother Mike and his girlfriend Kim from Ohio, a huge Ohio State fan and Cedar Point fan. And as we were in line, Volcano opened up, so we all sprinted over there to get back in line before it got too long and did the parent swap. The line was about 45 minutes long for them to get through as I hung out with the kids. And one of the nice things about doing parent swap, which I did with Melissa afterwards, is you can go to the front row. I waited 2 trains after Melissa and Mike and Kim went, and I had Melissa go on with me, and we were able to pop right into the front row, which was her first time in the front row. Just loved that ride. Andrew, out of all the 54-inch rides next year, that's in the top 5 of ones I can't wait for you to see because it is so different. My only problem with Volcano is I wish after that final drop where you still have so much speed that it did a couple of other elements, but unfortunately it goes into the brake run. After that, we decided to eat lunch at Outer Hanks, which is a good place. What do you like at Outer Hanks when we go there?
I like their shrimp is really good.
Mm-hmm.
And
Hush Puppies? Is that what the balls are?
They didn't have those last time.
Yeah, it's weird. Hopefully that's not the end of the Hush Puppies, as those are really good. Well, then I took Maddie to the Snoopy area to do 4 different rides, including the Space Buggies and a couple of others, and she loved them. And to me, I love King's Dominion's Snoopy area. It has so many shade trees, it's hilly, it's got a lot of great rides, including some bigger ones. And even though Kings Island wins every year, I kind of like the setting of King's Dominion's better. Kings Island doesn't really have trees in that area, whereas King's Dominion, I think it's so well done. And Maddie had a lot of fun there, and you guys did Avalanche at that time, I believe, right?
Yep, we did Avalanche. I'm surprised we never got to do Backlash.
Well, that's the thing. At that point in time, it's a great segue. All of a sudden, lines started to get crazy. A lot of people started pouring into the park. We headed over to Intimidator 305, where Mike and Kim could get their first ride on, and we did parent swap so that Melissa and I could ride together. Melissa had only done it a couple times in the back row, and so we did a parent swap, and I felt really bad as lines were starting to get pretty long at this point. So she and I went in, and I wanted her to get to see the front row, and I always feel guilty as people are in a line a long time, and I feel like saying, I'm not a fast pass or anything, we're just doing parent swap, and I actually said it this time to the people, sorry about that, we're just parent swap, and it's still just kind of a weird feeling to do it, and we had a great ride. Melissa loved it in the front row, and she always grays out on that first turn. After that, the park started to get really busy, and Andrew and Melissa did one drop zone ride. Still one of your favorite drop towers, would you say?
Yeah, It's really forceful, so yeah, it's probably like my favorite.
I agree. Absolutely love it. I still haven't done the Kings Island one yet, which is the same model, but at some point I'll get on that. We decided to drop Melissa, Maddie, and Alex off at the hotel so that we could possibly do some haunt houses later on, depending on what the lines look like. When we got back to the park, we met up with Clinton Randall from In the Loop and Central Park Funland at the Eiffel Tower where the haunt starts, and things were absolutely crazy at the front of the park at that point. And the whole group decided to go get dinner where?
At their burrito place in the front.
Oh, the Border Cafe. Is that in the whole chain one of your favorite places to eat?
Yep. Yes.
You love the burritos there. And we were in line for about 25 minutes and we got our food. And at that point, Clinton Randall, they didn't even decide to wait in the line because it was so long. So it turned out to be a really cool dinner. The meeting of the podcast with Clinton Randall and Mike and Izzy and Slater, our buddy from Ride This One, and Adam Beardman and Ariel and Brian Cosson. And that's where Clint decided to record a short 10-minute podcast you can hear on In the Loop. I would check that out, which was fun. And so it was a great conversation, a great chance for us all to hang out for a little bit. We walked around a little bit after that, and the haunt seemed like it was going to be insane. Like every line was going to be forever. So we headed to the back where Slater and Beardman decided to do Intimidator 305, Slater's first time ever. And we were kind of hanging out waiting for them. And we didn't know what we were going to do. And we were standing outside Flight of Fear, and the line for the haunt there, which was, what haunt was that one?
That was Lockdown.
Was spilling into the midway, and I was just figuring it was going to be forever, and I didn't even think of going on. But Clint was like, oh, these lines move crazily fast. He calls it the Conga line, that they just keep sending people through. So we're like, okay. And really, how long was that line? It wasn't that long at all.
5 minutes.
Exactly, which is crazy how long it was, and it was 5 minutes. So we're like, okay, I guess we'll do it. Our first one we did Lockdown. What did you think?
I thought it was great. I really liked their sets and how they did that. That one was probably my third favorite out of all of them because it was good, but wasn't as good as the other two because the sets were okay, but there weren't as many jump scares.
Yeah, exactly.
You could kind of see the characters coming.
And I think the electric chair scene, did we catch that at the perfect time? Where we thought it was going to be just a dummy, and then it turned out to be a real person who jumps up at that perfect moment. I thought it was pretty interesting. The sets were pretty cool. And one of the interesting things about it is we got to walk around with the head of Haunts, who creates all of these sets, who is the artistic creator that Clint knew. So it was kind of interesting as we were going through, he's pointing to different things like, oh, that's something we changed this year that at first they complained about. And it was good to hear his perspective on it. Well, then we walked over to Zombie High, which was kind of near Windseeker there. And again, that line was well past Windseeker, but still moved pretty fast. And Zombie High, well, what did you think of that one?
That one was my least favorite because of the sets. It was basically chairs stacked up against lockers and then blood smeared everywhere.
Lots of desks and chairs. One of the things I did like about it was the principal, who's talking on the intercom the whole time. You can hear him from the entire house, and he's just saying ridiculous silly things like detention is going to be really long today, and just silly announcements throughout. One of the things I thought was pretty cool again is when the scare actors pretend to be statues. There was one girl I remember who was standing on a desk, but she was crouched down almost like a baseball catcher with her head down, and I was staring at her the whole time wondering, is that going to be...
I knew that was real. I thought you knew it too.
I don't know, but she was very convincing, but that was cool. In some ways, it's the most comedic of houses where you have to walk through at one point like a locker room with jock straps hitting you in the face, and then some underwear and bras hitting you in the face as well. And then the corny dance at the end of the night, the prom, I thought was pretty well done as well. So we got through that one pretty quickly. We started making our way back up to the front of the park, where next we did No Vacancy. And your thoughts about No Vacancy?
This one was my favorite because I just thought the rooms were very well done with things popping out of the beds and then people behind corners. And I thought just their costume was well done, and I just thought that one had like the best sets, the best characters, and I thought they had the best house.
I agree. I really like the person who greets you, like it's the front lobby of the hotel. A lot of the rooms were beautiful. The person who sits up in the bed, that was a nice scare as well. And then what did you think of that tunnel, that inflatable tunnel that you had to push?
Yeah, there was a blow-up tunnel that you had to like walk through. And I remember in the start of Cornered, there was that same thing.
Oh, they had that there too?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And the weird thing about it, did it fit in with a hotel, did you think?
I mean, no vacancy, no space.
You're wondering in that whole time, is someone going to jump out in there, but no one did. I don't know, it just seemed like a weird inflatable balloon hallway in a hotel was a strange thing, but really liked No Vacancy. Well, then we decided to do our one coaster of the night. And it was odd. I know Slater wanted to do Grizzly. He really likes wood coasters. And we went earlier, and then it went down for a bit, which is odd. We had never seen Grizzly go down. So we went back there, and it was a decent-sized line, and it took a while to get through. But this is one of those coasters that I really disliked when we first did it. Every time I do it, I like it more and more and more. Kind of interesting how your perspective on a coaster can change over time. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Do you like it better?
I just think you'll get more used to it because the first time you do it, you don't know when the rough part and when it hits you is.
For you, it's the tunnel, right?
Yeah, but since you've done it, you know to brace for it so that you might enjoy it a little more.
Yeah, and I think Slater loved it, one of his favorite rides there, along with I-305. I think that episode is dropping real soon where he talks about it on Ride This One, so definitely check that out. We headed more towards the back of the park then to do Trick or Treat, and by this point in time, it's about the last hour or so. And Trick or Treat was a very cool start where they have you take a picture, and what do they do to make you scared?
They make like a loud air pop sound.
Yeah, and I think we have all those pictures from Clint, and we'll definitely post those up on our Facebook page. So it's a cool start to it where you get scared just taking the picture, so they have a scaredy picture that you can download.
This one was my second favorite, but for people who don't like loud noises, then I wouldn't say this is the one for them because, like you said, there's a loud air pop. And then there's this woman who bangs on the wall with a rock. Says like, "Oh, we have trick-or-treaters," and she bangs on the wall.
And she bangs on the wall. Okay, yeah.
And then there's the one that you're talking about where she scrapes on the...
It's almost like bamboo, yeah.
Yeah, bamboo stuff. And I thought that one was... I saw her coming, but it's still kind of...
Yeah. We could tell she was coming. Sometimes you catch those things at the perfect time, and sometimes you can see it coming so that other people get scared.
Yeah,
I like that area where they can stay inside and they open the latches in different spots so they can scare you at multiple places. That was neat.
When I was in line for the drop tower and it wasn't open yet, I thought Trick or Treat was like a mini kid scare house. I didn't think it was going to be like one of the scary ones, but...
Because, the premise is to lure trick-or-treaters, young kids, and I love how they did different rooms for every single witch. The oven that they have there was a cool touch with the fire glowing inside, and the witches, they really liked Andrew, so at every single room we went to where there was a scare actor, they always went behind him and talking to him, "Hey, little boy, why don't you come with me?" That kind of stuff, so he was targeted in every single room, which was great. We headed over to Blackout next, and it was kind of strange. What did you think?
I didn't love it. It was just so weird because there were random things hanging from the ceilings. And it wasn't very dark.
Clint said, compared to past years, this was way lighter than normal. Like, I think at Dorney, everyone was saying that the blackout there was super dark, where you could just barely tell where you were going. Here, in this blackout version at King's Dominion, you could see pretty well.
Yeah, there were strobe lights, which was weird.
There were?
Yeah, at the end.
Right at the end there. Okay, yeah. And it was kind of funny. About a third of the way through, one of the scare actors yells, "Clint's here! There's Clint!" And I think at about a third of the houses, someone referenced that Clint was there. Just part of the fun of going with coaster royalty at King's Dominion there. Well, it was getting real close to the end of the night at that point, and we were able to get into Blood in the Bayou. Since it's a new haunt this year, it was a crazy long line earlier. But at this point, there was about a half hour left, and Blood in the Bayou was a really short line at that point. And what did you think of their Blood in the Bayou?
Yeah, I really liked it. I think it's a little bit better than Dorney's.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they put a lot more detail into the set because of just like the signs and everything. And then...
It seemed longer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think they had all those dead pigs and dolls and stuff.
That butcher display where there's, I think, even supposed to be a human that's cut up in there is interesting.
Yeah.
All the voodoo stuff as well. I thought that was an excellent maze. Well, at that point, we're all the way at the back of the park near the new RMC opening up for next year, and we had about maybe 15 minutes. And Clint's like, all right, I can get you to the last one before they close, and we took the fastest route to get to Cornstalkers. And I thought this was a very unique maze, very different than the others. What did you think?
I thought Cornstalkers would be like the biggest and scariest one, but I didn't think there were that many actors to jump out at people. There was like 2 sets. One where like somebody says, "Are you afraid of the dark?" or something.
Yeah.
And then there's one at the end that they didn't use this time, but you could see where somebody jumps out on bungee cords. And so...
Yeah, but it was empty. It was empty for that night, so that was kind of sad.
I thought that would be a little more strong and scary and better.
But I did like the masks, I have to say.
Yes.
I thought the masks for Cornstalkers was very cool. I also liked the tower that they had built there, right? It was a windmill. I thought that was kind of cool almost towards the end. Just added to the theming. And that's the thing I liked most about the haunts, was just the thought, the details, the sets, more than anything else. That's kind of what I really enjoyed. I think that was Ariel's favorite maze as well. She really enjoyed that one. I have to describe how this worked going through every haunt, where I'm walking first, and then Andrew, with both hands, is clinging to the back of my shirt with his head buried in my back, and
I am clinging onto your shirt, but I'm like, my head's not clinging to you. I'm looking at my corner.
Well, you're looking at your corner, okay. So it's a very odd way to go through the maze. And with each scare actor, it's awkward for me. I tend to just laugh. There was nothing that really makes me scream or anything like that. But it's such an awkward thing when they jump out, and especially with a little guy like Andrew at 9 years old. It's just an awkward thing like, yay, good job, you're awesome. Hey, scary guy. And that's just the way we do haunts. It's a very unique way to walk through. But I still kind of enjoyed them.
Maybe next year we can do Universal.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. Start saving your pennies, dude. But that does sound fun. It's supposed to be amazing. We'll see. Thanks again to Clint and Randall, who both have lots of experience at the haunts and knew which was the best order to go. And again, rocked that last hour where we got like 3 houses done. That last hour was the best. And it was really cool. Do you remember what they did with the Eiffel Tower in that last 20 minutes as people were filing out?
Yeah, they turned the lights on, so the whole park was lit up. They also did it with the Drop Tower.
Those floodlights, it's amazing how much that lights the park up. And we talked to the head of security after, and he said that was a really, really busy night. What a great night at King's Dominion. To get all those houses in, we were shocked, and we really had a great time at that haunt. Well, on Sunday, we got Six Flags America at opening. And as I teased before, the idea of an apocalypse, and not because of the ride that's there, the former ride from Six Flags Great America, Iron Wolf, the stand-up coaster, but it was an apocalypse like the end of the world, as if no one was there. Now, quite often it is pretty quiet there, but on a Sunday at opening, it felt like we almost owned the park. So we got there at opening. We didn't necessarily run back, but we wanted to start at the back of the park and then work our way up. And so Melissa and I first got to Joker's Jinx, and the crew was actually surprised to see anyone there. They were all just kind of talking to each other, and when we arrived, it was like, oh, okay, I guess we'll open the coaster. Melissa went on first and got her Zen ride in. I'll put that up on the Facebook page as well. And she got to go front row and really enjoyed it. And the weird thing is then, I was in the exit with the kids waiting to go on, as that's a 54-inch coaster, and they had to then send a train by itself so that they could let Melissa back in, and then I swapped trains with her and went. And it's kind of sad with that park. I like the park overall. I know it gets bashed, but I like it. But there's a number of things they have to work on, including the paint jobs. Joker's Jinx from afar looks great, right? When you're walking up to it, purple and green, but then when you're on it, you see how much paint is gone. After Joker's Jinx, we started working our way to the back of the park, and we had no problem getting on Superman very quickly. While you guys did what?
So we did Riddler's Revenge while they did those two rides. And then we went over and did the new Wonder Woman's Lasso of Truth.
I think it's a good addition for that park. It makes that area look a little bit more developed. And what was special about it this time?
It went backwards.
Which we've done once before at Six Flags St. Louis, which we'll talk about in our next episode. What do you think about it going backwards compared to forwards?
It's not that much different. I wish it was faster, because when we were doing it, it felt so slow. And if they made it a little faster, it would add to the intensity, but it wasn't.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know if they can ever change the speed of it. Melissa and I got onto Batwing with no wait whatsoever. I think there were about 3 or 4 people on the train at that point, as it's a little bit later. And we got on Superman as well. Superman is just so rattly. Whether it's how they take care of the trains or the maintenance of the track, it's just a very rattly ride. And Batwing, compared to the similar Flying Dutchman at Carowinds, is nowhere near as good. But getting on with no lines at all, that's a beautiful thing, and I'll make that trade a lot of time. After that, we made our way to Roar. And how did you feel about Roar? You went back row.
We went, yeah.
Yeah, what did you think? How was it back there?
It's okay. It has a lot of really super rattly parts. And the Helix is fun. That's one of the most rattliest parts. And then the curve drop. I don't love curve drops because it takes away some of the speed.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think my favorite curve drop by far is the Legend at Holiday World. I was going to
say Thunderhead, but now I think of it, yeah, it's probably the Legend.
Thunderhead's a good one too, because it's pretty steep. So I agree. Those are 2 good examples. In the front row, I didn't think it was rough at all. A decent ride. And gosh, do you think there's any chance that they'll ever get the Roar RMC treatment there?
No, never.
It's sad. A few more rides and a little bit more upkeep. It could be such a good park. They've got so much room back there, but they don't seem to want to invest in that park overall. Because what are they getting again next year?
They're upgrading their lazy river.
Yes, it's going to be a little bit less lazy.
It's going to have water fountains.
Woohoo! Six Flags America. A little bit better Lazy River. So after Roar, you guys did Ragin' Cajun. I didn't need to do it again. And you guys found it a little bit rough, right? You got thrown around a little bit this time?
Yeah, it threw us against the side. And it was rough, but I still kind of enjoyed it.
For Alex and Melissa, this is their first time ever going to Six Flags America, so it's good for them to experience some of these new rides and boost up their coaster count. Maddie and I did the Flyers, which, again, Maddie's just barely tall enough to do, while you guys were on Ragin' Cajun. And I like that area, that whole Mardi Gras area.
Mardi Gras.
Yeah, Mardi Gras. I think that area is, for that park, pretty well done. Some theming there. And we got Alex onto his first Intamin drop ride. And I think this is a perfect one. Voodoo Drop. It is not very tall. It's one of the shortest Intamin drop towers there is. And he went on, and he's got some fear with drop towers. And he went on, no problem, loved it. It was our first. Yeah, our first drop tower ever. Then after we parent swapped and did Wild One. And what did you think of it this time?
It's still really rough. There's a couple really hard bangs, but it's your typical Allenback coaster.
Yeah, and I think it just celebrated its 100th year.
Yeah.
That was a big year for them, and I think it's fine. The airtime is not anything crazy, but it's a decent ride. We decided to skip Mind Eraser, as Andrew's heard my story about doing the back row Mind Eraser there, and Melissa was fine with not doing it. She also decided to skip Apocalypse, not wanting the credit. That's how much she dislikes stand-up coasters. But they did get their kid coaster credit with Maddie, and they did a little trick-or-treat special activity behind the kids coaster where they had a haunted hayride, which we decided not to do. They did the carousel, and then we had dinner and headed out for the day as we had a long trip back. So at least we got most of the major rides done. For our ride of the day, Andrew picked out this one, and our ride of the day is going to be
Wildfire at Silver Dollar City.
In our next podcast, we're going to talk about our trip to Missouri, where we met our good buddy Slater from Ride This One. But Andrew wanted to pick this for our ride of the day. What did you think of that ride?
I really liked it because it was my second or third B&M, And I like how it goes down the mountain, so it kind of adds to the effect of the scariness. And I just love how the loop is so big, and then that Cobra roll is fantastic. And for a B&M, the drop is a very forceful drop.
I thoroughly agree. It's one of those rare B&M sit-down rides that has open trains to it. So I love the way those trains look. It gives you a very open feel. And just the theming before you even get on the ride. You have that giant tank that's there filled with water that's beautiful, and the lights are on it. It's got that steampunk feel with a lot of interesting things there.
And then there's like a office.
Yeah, that's right. Where they have all those statistics in there. Exactly. That part of the queue wasn't too busy, so we didn't get to look in it much. But it was almost like a lab office kind of thing.
Yeah. And then outside there was it was like a bike with wings on it.
Oh, yeah, outside after the exit, exactly. Adding to that steampunk feel. And even once you board the train, wasn't there things hanging down?
Yeah, and then there was like mist that hit you.
Yeah. So a very cool ride even before you get onto it. When you're going up the lift hill, you get to that pre-drop and you just see that blanket of trees forever. It's beautiful. And again, setting to us makes a big difference. Not having a coaster that's in a parking lot, those kind of rides can really take away from it. But here, just a beautiful view at the top. You've got that graceful Immelman loop that's first, a great element, and then that beautiful vertical loop second, which back to back, those are two great elements. Then you get that really low to the ground section for speed, where for a B&M like that to be that low to the ground, kind of rare, really like that. Then that Cobra roll is one of the best Cobra rolls I think there is. It's huge.
That's like my first main one.
Yeah.
Like, because all aero ones, they're...
like the boomerang?
Yeah, they're kind of different.
Kind of painful in comparison. So yes, now you get to see what a great Cobra roll is like. Then the corkscrew comes afterwards, very unlike an arrow corkscrew where it's actually pretty comfortable, and then the ride is done from there. You walk down that wooden walkway to the shop. Still, you've got kind of a cool view there. And then you walk through that shop, and you remember there's like that giant blimp in the shop and all that? Yeah. That continues the theming.
And then there was directions, like how they built it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was just very cool. At first, we didn't know what the theming was, like a fire in the wild. But it was like a machine wildfire.
Well, I assume that's the steampunk company that is going to put out the fires. That's why you have that giant tank of water and the misters. And so I guess you're the crew in some futuristic steampunk society that's going to put out a wildfire. What a great ride. I'd say that's definitely in my top 10 B&Ms. I think a very underrated ride. You don't hear a lot of people talk about it. I'm so glad you were able to do it. And we got on it twice in that trip. What a terrific ride. How about our tip of the day?
Tip of the day, tip of the day, it's the tip of the day. Tip of the day, tip of the day, it's the tip of the day. Yeah!
All right, my tip of the day is be consistent if you have keys and wallet and phone on you with zippered pockets on your pants. Throughout the day at Six Flags America, I had put my stuff into the diaper bag, and then I think it was possibly when we were doing the flyers, I'm not sure exactly when, or it could have been on Wild One, that I had my keys on me that was in a Velcroed pocket, which wasn't very secure. When we got back to the entrance, I realized that I didn't have my keys, but we really had to get going to get home. So thankfully I went to Lost and Found, put my name in, and they found my keys and sent them to me. So a big shout out, thank you very much to Six Flags America. And it's a rookie mistake, that's so GP. I generally always have zippered pockets on me so that I don't lose anything. Always secure your stuff. If you don't have a locker or a bag, have zippered pockets. That's so helpful and will solve a lot of problems. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode. On our next episode, we're actually going to have that interactive question that we've been mentioning for a while about your momentous numbered coasters, memorable numbered coasters. Whether it was 150 or 100, it can even be some weird number like 73, but number 73 was just so memorable because you went on with great grandma who's 102 and loves coasters, or some other wacky situation that was just so memorable for you. We're going to do that in our next episode. So again, you could send us an MP3 to themeparkfamilies@gmail.com. We're also going to be doing posts on Facebook and Twitter where you can enter it there, and we'd love to hear from you for that. So we'll be sending that out in a little bit. Exciting news as Goliath from the Ride This One podcast has shamed us for a couple of months about not getting onto other forums, our podcasts, other than Libsyn. So happy to report that we are now on iHeartRadio. What else are we on?
Stitcher.
What else are we on?
Spotify.
Or Spotify. It's probably the first time you've ever seen that before. We're also on
Google Play Music.
And our episodes are also on YouTube now. Theme Park Families is our channel, but we've got to find a way to make it much easier to find your way onto our YouTube page. When we come to next year, we're going to start adding plenty of videos, recording videos for media days and other occasions at the theme parks. So we're going to get that a lot more well developed here in the next few months. You can find us at Facebook at Theme Park Fam and also on Twitter at Theme Park Fam. And so we'd love to hear from you there. We'll be posting some things here in the next few weeks. Hey, there's Maddie.
Thanks for joining us. Our next episode will be out soon.
Andrew is a little guy. He's not very stout.
I have courage of a giant. Until next time.